Today I'm going to mix it up a little bit on you guys today. What I'm going to do is talk about the value of information. So today, I think more than ever, we are inundated with information, whether it's social media, television, news, whatever it is. We've got this 24-hour news feed that's pumping information to us. And we are tasked with the really tall task of taking that information, processing it, and most importantly, being able to act on it. And I think that's where people wind up having a lot of problems. So today, what I wanted to do was talk about information, talk about how to take that, put it into a framework, and make sure that you're acting on it in a way that's going to positively impact your life. So, first of all, I think I'm going to give you 3 steps today of what you can look at to make sure you're validating the information, processing it correctly, and again, executing on it. The first rule, what I would say about information is what you want to do is consider the source. So just like anything, I put up this background today of Hollywood. And in Hollywood, there's a lot of actors. There's people that play doctors, but you definitely don't want them to operate on you. And so with social media today, one thing that I noticed, and I'm late to the game when I got onto Instagram just about 6 or 7 months ago, there was a lot of people that had a tremendous amount of followers. A lot of people were telling me to take a look at. And when I sat down and processed the information that they were giving, it was just factually incorrect. And that's when I realized there was a big problem with the information out there. So one of the challenges today in my business of financial services, wealth management, a lot of people say, well, Rob, why are people going to pay for information when information is free today? And I think that transcends across many different industries, right? Real estate, whatever it is, there's a lot of information out there that comes to people free. So in order to put a price on that information, you have to do something a little bit different. And so I guess the first question is information that's free good? Is there a value to someone taking that information and putting it into a format that you can utilize? So I would say, first of all, the kind of litmus test of is consulting dead? Well, just take a look at McKinsey. They're still doing about $8 billion a year in consulting revenue. Accenture, which is the number one, I think is doing about $18 billion a year. So obviously some very smart people, in this case, some very large organizations, still believe in the value of information. But what is it that Accenture does? What is it that McKinsey does that makes that information so valuable? So the first step when you're digesting information is to consider the source. So McKinsey, a lot of obviously very educated people that are consulting for McKinsey, very specialized. So McKinsey, like Accenture, has very specialized units. So wealth management, energy, industrial, all those different things where people that come into McKinsey to consult usually have a very nice academic pedigree, but they also have real world experience where they've taken that education and applied it. And through trial, error, experiences, and execution, they then have been able to take information and put that into an actionable roadmap that businesses are able to execute on to obviously improve their top line and their bottom line. And the results have worked. So when you look at McKinsey or Accenture, for example, it really comes down to what is the education, importantly, what is the experience? And when you put those two things together, is somebody giving you that information then in a way that is actionable? So that would lead me to my second step, where if the information is good, is it actionable? And a lot of times, like I just said, we're inundated with information. There's a lot of good information out there. I get onto YouTube, I attend conferences, and I listen to some really, really smart people giving really, really good information, but surrounded by a tremendous amount of ambiguity that does not provide an actionable step. And I think that's one of my largest pet peeves with speakers is when they do things like this, is putting out good information, but then the end user is left to say, well, how do I apply that? And so, for example, I just did a Driven conference a couple of weeks ago, and I talked about creating your company for a multi-million dollar valuation exit. And so, just like I'm in the news on Fox every week, I have to produce information in a very short period of time. And I don't ever want to get on the news. I don't ever want to step on the stage and just talk about things without giving the viewer, the attendee, some value to take away. And so what I did was a presentation on valuation, what they could look at on their own company. And I broke it down into an acronym, which was SAFE. The SAFE was the sustainability of the business. The A was the adaptability of the business. The F was how fast is the business growing, and the E was how easy is it to run. And then I gave some context to all of those things. But when someone went back from the audience to work to look at their own business, it's very easy to remember those four different steps that were very important for them to act on. So that's what McKinsey does well. That's what Accenture does well. And so when you're getting information, I could put anything out there in the world in terms of, how a business, should be run, what I think the stock market's going to do. I could say the stock market is going to, in 2 years, be cut in half, or the dollar is going to fall and be worth a fraction of what it is. That's good. That may be factual or non-factual information, but what's valuable is how to execute on that. So if I tell you, oh, because the dollar is going to be falling, I want you to allocate your normal cash allocation to A, B, and C. Oh, and I also want you to invest in your assets and things that are more tangible, such as energy, real estate, and so forth, whatever those things are. Then what I've done is I've taken an idea, I've taken information, given you a broad framework to be able to execute on, and then I would get into details of how to specifically do that. So be aware of information that is not actionable. The third component, so now we have the source of the information. You want to make sure it's credible. It's somebody with the academic pedigree. It's somebody with the experience that they've actually done this before and whatever they're saying that they're going to do. The third thing, and also very important, is the conflicts of that information. What are some of the conflicts of somebody giving you that advice? Now, I'm here to tell you, everybody has a conflict. There's no such thing as conflict-free advice. What your job is to do as you become more educated, and one thing that education teaches you is to question things, is to question the source and question their motive for giving you that information, right? And so when you look at something, for example, I hear a lot of people that have been coming to me in my Wealth Academy that have really been taken advantage of through insurance salesmen that call themselves financial advisors. And what they've sold them on is this, tax-free life insurance plan that ultimately is better than any free, what they tell them, policy or strategy that's out there, such as solo 401ks, Roths, all those types of things. Now, if you were just an insurance salesman and 90% of your revenue is coming from insurance, and knowing financial services, insurance is by far the highest paid commission product that you can sell out there. Is there an incentive for people to create a narrative and a story to entice you into this? Is there an incentive for them to take the data? And that's one other thing, right? Is that data, I could take any piece of data and I could give you a very bullish or optimistic outlook about that data, or I could take that data and give you a very pessimistic or bearish outlook on that. One thing to be aware of is that fear sells, fear motivates people, and usually the bearish, scariest argument is usually the most articulate and the one that people are going to respond to the most. So beware of people that are selling you fear. But ultimately, you always want to step down and understand what is the conflicts. If you don't know, ask somebody, well, how are you getting paid? What is your main source of income? So if your main source of income is selling insurance policies to you, more than likely, and I'm not saying that they're unethical people, but if it comes down to you putting your money in something that's going to give them $100 versus something that gives them $10,000, where obviously they have to put food on the table. That information and data is probably going to be skewed around a narrative that drives you, the consumer, into a product where the outcome is the highest amount of money in their pocket, which essentially comes out of your pocket. So today's day and age, there's just so much information out there. And I think that's good in the standpoint as you can learn a lot. But I also think it's quite a bit dangerous because there's a lot of actors now on YouTube, on Instagram, that are pretending to be validated, credible sources of information that have a really good script and are really convincing, and people are making actionable decisions based off of that information to their own detriment. So the value today of information is education. It's questioning things through the source of that information. Make sure they have at least probably 10 years of experience and a track record in what they've done. Make sure that you understand the information, how that is actionable to you in your life, right? That information might be great, but if you can't act on it financially, if there's something you can't do health-wise to change, then that information is really not valid. And then finally, make sure that you always question. The third thing is the conflicts that are involved with that information. If you do those three things, it's still not going to, obviously, like anything, protect you from 100%, but it's a very simple framework when you're getting inundated with new information to tell that person, especially if they're trying to get you to transact on that information, I need a day to think it over. Run it through that three-step process. And if the ultimate outcome is, well, it's probably not the most credible source, and there definitely is some conflicts that are more than likely motivating them. And really, there isn't a lot of action, or the action that might involve could definitely be a detriment to me, my family, my health, my financial future. It's probably best to pass on that information and look for the next credible source. So a little bit different this week. I just wanted to mix it up because I've been getting some questions from different sources about whether or not this information was good or bad. Listen, I do this every Friday. Please, just like I was able to take the information from people requesting this week's topic, let me know what you want to hear about. Also, if you haven't, please subscribe to my channel, share the channel with somebody else, click the bell, you'll be notified. We post basically every Friday brand new information that's actionable like this on your investment portfolio, whether it's exotic cars, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, real estate, fine wine, watches, or just information on how to digest information. The goal is to make you more educated, more aware, a better consumer, a better advocate, and ultimately put you, your family, and the people you love in a more secure financial future that allows you to live the life you love. Until next week, have a great week. Wishing you continued health and wealth. I'm Rob Luna. This is Wealth Talk.